Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Prevention Voices Washington webinar series on Washington Legislature 101. Today's webinar is going to be about reading a bill. My name is Megan Moore. I'm at Kitsap Public Health District, and I'm excited to share these skills to you about reading any legislative measure. Now, the first thing that we're going to go to is the legislative website. I want you to commit that website to memory. It's leg.wa.gov. So we're going to bring this up here. And the first thing I'd like you to go to is the left-hand column. There's so much good information here, but this bill information tab is where we are going to find out where a bill is. So I'd like to go to bill number 5129. That was in the 2021 legislative session. The title of the bill is concerning the possession of vapor products, tobacco, and tobacco products by minors. And essentially what this bill would do is remove the purchase, use, possession provision from youth under age 18. Now, we're not really going to get into the policy too much about this bill. I just want you need to know a little bit of the details before we go into a deep dive of the bill itself. Now, you saw that I scrolled down to this available documents section. The bill listed at the bottom of this list, and this list could get pretty long, is the current version of the bill. So we're going to go to the bottom one, the substitute bill. And when I open it up, you'll see the bill number there. You will see at the top who it is sponsored by. It was originally sponsored by Senator Saldana as the primary sponsor. The senators listed after Senator Saldana are considered the secondary sponsors. And once this bill was passed out of its committee, it was actually sponsored by the committee. So the Senate Human Services Reentry and Rehabilitation Committee is now the primary sponsor of the bill. If you scroll down, you will see what this bill does and what it does to current law. So most bills in Washington state, they are changing some statute that is already in existence in Washington state. And so this section here tells you all of the sections of our current law that this specific bill would change. Now, you are going to be looking for anything in a bill that is underlined, crossed out, or a new section. All of those pieces are any amendments to the current law. Everything else that's listed there is already law, and you need to know the law, the current law, and how this bill would change the law when you are talking to decision makers, you're talking to others about the bill. So this first section here, it says new section. It's often called the intent section, and it's really important to know the intent of the bill because, first of all, sometimes it may be incorrect. It may have wrong data, and that might be something that we need to amend. And also, you really want to know what the legislators were thinking when they said, hey, let's change the law. So in this particular bill, we changed the age of purchase of tobacco products to age 21 in 2019. And when we did that, it removed the purchase, use, possession provision from youth ages 18 to 20. This bill essentially would do the same thing for youth under 18 years old. And that is important in prevention because we want the onus to be on the industry, not on the youth who have an addiction. So I'm going to scroll down to section 2 here. And what's important to know, but is also like super boring, I guess, jargony, when you are reading a bill is the RCW, the statute that this part of the bill would change. And it's important to know what statute it changes because otherwise, you may have the wrong talking points, but you may also see, and I'll show this in a second, sections of the bill that have repeating language. So in this section here, RCW 70-155-110, I'm just going to copy that and paste it into Google. And when I do that, I'm going to see that this section of the bill is amending the Liquor and Control Board's authority. That's really important to know. And the next thing that we see that's crossed out is this Liquor Control Board. It's crossed out several times through the entire bill. And one reason for that is because that's old language. We don't, in 2021, we don't call the LCB, we don't call it the Liquor Control Board anymore. We call it the Liquor and Cannabis Board. Also, why this is important for removing redundancy is because if you go back to that statute, which I will now, you go back to the definitions section in that statute, you will see that the board is already defined in this section as the Washington State Liquor and Cannabis Board. And so it's sort of redundant to list it here. So they cross that out throughout. Like I said, there's also some repeating language. So in this section, section 2 sub 3, you will see this piece here, and that removes the board's authority for a peace officer or enforcement officer of the Liquor Cannabis Board to stop and detain youth, essentially is what it's saying. If I move down to section 3, which is a totally different RCW, and we'll look that up in just a second here, you will actually see that this language, subsection 3, also repeats here. And that's because, we'll open up that, the last RCW. This is talking about the board's authority to enforce their rules. So if there's repeating language in our law, the bill needs to list every place in the law where that repeating language is so that it can remove it. So actually, you may see that bills that are 100 pages long are oftentimes sections of the law where it's repeating language. It's still important to know what statute that is referring to, and it's important to read it over. Now, since we took out subsection 3, you'll see that all the numbers change after that. So that's one of the changes, not a big one, but that's why they're underlined and crossed out. And if I continue to scroll to the bottom, you'll see 2 new sections here. This section, section 4 at the bottom is essentially talking about more authority. It's talking about these sections. So I would recommend that you go and read those. And then the last section here, it's saying this part of the law is repealed. So if you go back to RCW 70-155-80, you will see that it's the whole section about youth under age 18. You know, it's a civil infraction for youth under age 18 to possess, purchase, or use vapor or tobacco products. And so this section and the penalty section for purchase, use, or possession of tobacco and vapor products are both repealed. So instead of listing the entire section and just crossing it out, this section says these parts of the law are repealed. Oftentimes at the very end of a bill, you'll see a section that's like when the act should go into effect, or you will see some clauses at the end, maybe like a sunset clause, for example. So there's a lot of different types of clauses that you could see at the end of a bill, and those are important to read over. But for this bill, I think we're done. This is a relatively short one. So when you read a longer, maybe more complicated bill, you might have more questions. Feel free to email me at kitsappublichealth.org. Thank you and have a great day.